we've got our DNG files now, so the next thing is to actually open them and work on them. So what most people seem to do is they actually go straight into After Effects, but I think there's a better way of doing it, and you can do it straight into After Effects. If I just open up After Effects here, so having opened up After Effects, what most people do, and you can do this, but I'll show you a better way I think, is you can just go File, Import, File, and then go and find your file you want to import. It's the DNG file, the first one in the sequence is 000, and just open that. And it immediately opens up Camera Raw, you can see there, and you can work on it. Now that's great. The only thing is there's a slight, in my opinion, the slight problem I have with that is that may not be the frame you actually want to edit, i.e. there may be some different framing or something you want, one of the later frames you want to edit rather than this particular one, and I'll show you why in a second. So so you can work on this, but I'm going to show you I think what I think is a better way of doing it, and we'll have a look at that now. So I'm just going to close After Effects, I'll open up Bridge, and Bridge comes with CS6. I've got the CS6 version here. But Bridge is very, very handy for all these things, and I'm going to just open up the file through Bridge instead. So I go into Raw Lesson and Original, and it's DNG, and you can see in Bridge you can actually see all of the frames. You're going to be able to use a Camera Raw now, and if you look at all my frames there, they're still loading them all, so many of them. The first frame we had the option in using After Effects using Camera Raw was the first one here, but that may not be the one you really want to edit the most important one. In my case that was only a setup shot and setup frames, and as I go down, the ones I'm really interested in are here, the scene where I'm positioned to actually start talking, because that's the one I want to get the settings for correctly, make sure I'm correctly exposed and all the rest of it. So in my opinion it's the same end in effect, it's just this extra control over the DNGs is really useful, and once it loads them in, you can change them very easily, go back and change them and select the frames you want to change and apply the settings very easily doing it via Bridge, and then just opening up in After Effects already done. So I'll show you now the sequence. So this stage now is we're going to work on the DNG. This is the kind of probably the most artistic and the creative part you want to do with all of this to process your raw footage. So I'm just going to choose maybe one of the shots I would like to have corrected, and then I'm going to apply those settings to the rest of them. So if I right click there on that frame there, and you can see there I can actually open that in Camera Raw, so I'm going to open it in Camera Raw. So if I right click there on that frame there, and you can see there I can actually open that in Camera Raw, so I'm going to open it in Camera Raw. So you get the same screen as you did before, it's just now I'm able to have chosen the frame I want. And now dealing with this, let's have a look at this, the settings you might want to use on it. So the really useful thing about shooting in RAW is you can change everything. You can change your white balance for it, if you got that wrong, for example. I'm going to leave it as shot. I'm going to adjust it slightly. Nice thing, you can kind of adjust the temperature. I'm going to warm it up a little bit there. I don't tend to do the tint, just the temperature slightly to make it a little bit warmer. You can change the exposure. You got your graph up here to actually see how bright the subject is and the different colours, etc. So I probably don't want to do much with that, but just to show you, can. And the nice thing about it, you can see there as you go overexposed, it shows areas in red. You can have those highlighted there. It shows on the graph as well what's overexposed, and going down, I mean it's pretty easy to see, but you can see there, clicking on that shadow clipping, you can see that as well. So I'm going to just put that pretty well back because I pretty well exposed it okay overall, I think. Back to default there. So with that, knock the temperature up again. Having done that, probably want to increase the contrast a little bit, so I'm going to increase that a little bit. I'd like it probably the highlights down a little bit. Shadows, I'm going to bring them up a little bit, though not really. It was all pretty well correctly exposed. Whites, maybe increase the whites a bit. And bring the blacks down a bit just to get a little more contrast again. The big thing in here is with RAW, you're left with a very unsharp image generally from the camera. Now clarity is supposed to do the mid-tones, boost them, give them a bit more punch, and I'll show you. So you can go right to an extreme there, you can see 100, and I'm going to give it a bit more punch in the mid-tones, say to about there. I think. Other thing, it's going to be very flat when it comes out of the camera in RAW is I'm going to probably boost the vibrance a little bit and saturation a little bit as well. And you can see there, if you click up here, you can see the before preview, before and after. These bits here you can see a little bit blown out, so it might be I want to bring those whites down a little bit in the end. And just check the face is okay there. Okay, we'll work at 100% there. You can see there's a slight bit of going out there on the face. Now, I mean, here's a subject which is kind of backlit a little bit, and it may well be that you want to bring down the background, for example. This is not too bad, this one, but it may be I want to make it more dramatic. And there's a nice thing you can do here in Camera Raw is you can actually apply a gradated filter. So like this button up here, if I pull that down, you can see you can apply basically a grad filter to it, and you can see there you get this screen come up, and you can knock down the exposure more. I don't want to do any more than that, just to give it a bit more interest. So it can, if you've got a very blown out sky, you can use that, I think, to actually bring it down a little bit and still keep the exposure correct in the rest of the shot. So those are some of the, that's, I'll come out of that now. I want to go back to the other settings. So this is the main setting here at the beginning. You can see this little icon here, the basic one. So I've done those settings. You can also apply a curve, and I'll apply a slight curve to this, like that. And then you can also apply sharpening. I'm not actually going to bother to apply, just check it 100%. It's best to look at it, the sharpening side of it. Got a little bit of overexposure there as well, so I'm just going to go back. Maybe just pull that down a little bit. Pull the highlights down a bit there. Because I can probably put the exposure up. I'll take that off the face there a bit. And exposure around about there. So see there, so I think it's looking better, but again, this is just to show you all the different options on it. So sharpening you can increase, and noise I wouldn't use the noise reduction here. I think you're much better off using, this is really for photographs, using it in something like neat video. It just gives a very strange plastically look to it when you're doing the video side of things. And I'm going to leave the sharpening here as well. This is default sharpening it adds. You can also put it down to 0 in the detail. I'm just going to leave it around about there where it was before. Just give a little bit of sharpening to it. And other options here you can do as well. You can actually, it's quite nice. There's lots of little tools here you can use regarding the saturation and luminance. So, for example, I can increase or decrease the luminance here, and if you come up here on the top and I use this tool, targeted adjustment tool, I can lower if I click on that area, I can lower the luminance, say there, of the sky, for example, or by dragging up I can increase it. So say I bring that down there, and I can do things like, I'm not saying they're all relevant, but it's good to have the options here. So if I wanted to create, say I wanted to increase saturation or decrease saturation of the greens here to make them less green, clicking on the saturation option there, using this TAT, target adjustment tool, I can click into the area I want to reduce the saturation, and I can drag down. Well, you can see there, it gets rid of the greens or reduces them a little bit. And you can do that with all the colours. So it's a really great tool, Camera Raw, for actually working on your shot. So the first one, so we've done, that's pretty well what I want to do on this, and having done that, I'm just going to click on Done. So I've got one of them now done. I want to apply that to the rest of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click on the one I've done, go down to develop settings, copy settings, and then I'm going to select all of them. Select all. So that selects all of them now, and if I right click again, we'll go up to edit and develop settings again. I can then paste those raw settings, and it will start, this screen will come up and it will then start applying it. So here I want to make sure everything's applied. I've done, and there was a local adjustment which was the which you might remember was the gradient filter I applied. So I'm just going to make sure I put everything there in. It puts everything in, and click on OK, and that will now start applying the settings to all the files. And again, none of this is destructive editing, because all the original DNGs, you can go back to them anytime you want. As you can see, it continues to work through. Now if you ever wanted to go back to the original settings, all you need to do is open up Camera Raw again. It's very easy to go back to the original. In this frame here, you can pretty well, if you click on the little icon up here next to basic, you can go back to Camera Raw defaults to see what it looked like originally, which that's what it does look like. Or you can just go back to what you already did, go back to image settings to show it. So it's great because it's non-destructive. You've got all your settings there.